Hi, in this video we're going to go over the parameters within Bigfoot, and for this setup we're going to look at our 2-tick trend bar. So that's going to be typically a bigger target if you're using that one. In this scenario I've got it set up for a 10-tick target, so we'll go over all of that now. In your general setup, the couple things that you're going to want to modify, you're going to want to make sure that you have, this is your entry targeter that it uses, and this can be set up a number of different ways. 3515 is pretty decent for this setup, so we'll have a look at how that works. Counter trend I'm not using, so counter trend I always want a fairly large counter trend so that we're not fighting a strong trend, but if you just leave it off, in a lot of scenarios that's going to be better because we've got a center channel that we don't want to trade into, and so if you're not looking at the distance prices away from the center channel, then it's a better idea just to leave your counter trend off. I've got this set up for a deferred entry, so what it's going to do is when it initially looks for an entry, it's not going to take it right away until price gives us a little bit of a hitch. And then that way, if we jump right in and we get knocked out of a trade without using the deferred entry, this is the setup that we're looking for to just make sure that if price is going to back up, that it does that and then we get in. So for that setup, I'm going to be using, I've got this set up for a 121, and what that means is it doesn't need much of a retracement within the candle in order to get us in, but it's going to give us 20 bars of our move in order to look for that entry. You could have it set up for just 5, where it has to generate that entry very close to what we would normally look for our entry area. So in this case, this is pretty much the exact same entry that you would get if you weren't using a deferred entry method. And this means that within this scope we're looking for a little bit of a retracement and then get into this. So we can set this up for multiple entries per move, so we're going to look at targeter and make sure that it's in agreement with our direction. And then if we have this set up for the max number of entries, 1 means it's just going to take 1 entry per that move, and you can increase that up to as many as you like, but typically I wouldn't really do more than 3 entries per move. So if you have a sustained long push short or long, it will look for multiple entries in that move. Okay, for our entry filter, we're not really using that. That's going to be a multiple time frame type of thing, and we will be introducing that in future versions. For our exit setup, if we were into a situation where we're looking for long runners, our hook is going to tell us that it's going to get out down here. So that can be a very good move if it's going to be a move that plays out for a bit. But if it's just going to be a short little move, then we don't want to rely on just the hook exit, because a lot of times you're just going to be happier picking up 10 ticks and then getting out. So on a move like this, we would basically get out very quickly before the 10 tick move developed. For our recross, that means the target is going to cross against us and then get us out that way, and so we want that to be a little bit faster. So I've got mine set up for a 10-10. Our directional filters, you can do that all on screen, so we will have a look at that using our buttons. This is very important in our time filters, so we're going to use a time filter on crude oil inventory day. So if your inventory day is 10:30, which it typically is for my time zone, then I'll want to set this so that it ends taking trades 10 minutes prior, because there's probably not going to be any decent moves 10 minutes prior to the news, maybe not the entire morning up until the news event. And so if it happens to get into a trade at 10:20, it's going to exit that trade by 10:25, and then it will begin trading again at 10:31. So we're going to give that news event a minute to play out, and then it can go ahead and trade into the afternoon, and you can either run it till it hits your daily target, take your couple of winners hopefully that it generates for you, or just let it time out on the day. So if it's not crude oil inventory day, then I'll set this up for true, and this will mean that it will just trade 5 minutes after the pit opens. And of course this can be traded overnight, and typically there's a lot of good moves overnight that it would be able to pick up. But if you just want to make sure that it's trading while you're watching it, then I recommend 5 minutes after the pit opens, just because sometimes there's a little bit of a head fake right with the pit open, and then trading into the afternoon. For our order type, you can either use market or you can use limit. Typically, I want to use market just to make sure I'm going to get into a trade. But if you find yourself that you're filling off the candle, then we don't want that to happen. And that means that you may just be getting bad fills in your area based on data or whatever the case is. I've seen some people in Europe that have had very bad fills, and where you'll normally see a number of orange dots, usually about 4 orange dots, and that means that it was trying to get into a trade and it just couldn't get a fill. So try market out, and if you are not filling on the candle, if you're getting very bad fills, then go back to limit and just make sure that you're going to get filled that way. For entry quantity, this version is set up for up to 3. So if you want to trade 3 contracts with 1 static target, then you can set it up with just a 3, where I've got a 1. And then if you want to do different targets, you can set those up as well. The 4th one's not being used at the moment. And our time between trades, we just leave that at 120, and that is so that we don't get overfills where it's trying to get in and out of a trade at the same time. For our target, I've just got this set up for taking 10 ticks. So on the long side it would take 10, and on the short side it would take 10, and I'm using a 10 tick stop. It's a fairly big candle, so we just want to give it a little bit of room. If you try to use a 3 or 4 tick stop, you may get stopped on the same entry candle, just because price may move back and forth before it prints the next candle, and it could knock you out. As far as our break even, you can set all of that up. I do use the trail stop on my smaller chart, and we're going to have a look at that. But if you want to set up any of your trails or break even adjustments, you do that there. For your max gain on the day and your max stop loss, you would set that up there. I've got mine set up fairly high, but that's just because I want to see what it's capable of doing. And certainly if you just want to take 1 or 2 winners a day, it can typically generate that quite a few days out of the week. And then as far as hoping for 5 winners in a row, well, that can certainly be a little bit more tricky, because you may hit chop at some point during the day. As far as our buttons go, we do want to make sure that if you don't want your counter trends on, that you would turn them off here, and you can turn them off. Obviously we looked at in our top box that we have it off here as well, so either one works, but I happen to turn both off. And then the rest I'm comfortable leaving on. In our utility parameters, you will want your audit mode on so that you can see your indicators on screen. And then operating mode, back test will show you what it did in the past, and real time will allow you to allow it to trade all future entries. So that's very important, because if you run it, it will take trades going forward in real time. But if you want to review setups and criteria and whatever you're adjusting, how that would work out, it's very important to have that in backtest. Okay, let's review what kind of entries that it was looking for. So this is, I think, day before yesterday. So as far as the entry criteria, there would not be a difference between using the deferred entry and our standard entry. So if you had deferred entry off, you would probably see the exact same trade take place. Same thing here. This is exactly the same for both. So you can see, since this is just looking for such a little retracement, a very small one played out, and we're only looking for 1 entry. If we had that increased, it would probably take at least 1 more trade to the short side in this move. For this one, this is a delayed entry. It probably would have gotten in a little bit sooner. And then as far as this one, same thing. It probably would have gotten in a little bit earlier, and then it had the retracement and could have potentially knocked you out, but was able to put up another nice winner, and that just happened to be a pretty active day. So Same thing here, probably exactly the same entry as you would see with our standard non-deferred entry. Okay, this is for Friday, and we had our first winner at about just about 9:15 or so, and we had a nice move in that. So if we did have this increase to look for more trades, it would have gotten into a trade down here and up here. So it could have potentially had several winners in that move. And then for our next entry, well, we couldn't get into another move here because by the time it got out of the trade, the other one had already generated. So whenever you see these vertical lines, it is looking for longs. Now you'll see it took a couple of stops and got knocked out flat. And a good way to stop that from happening is, since we are in an uptrend, when it's looking for entries around our center channel, you can simply turn your long button off on screen. And then it was able to generate another couple of winners. So it got to our 20 tick target that we normally want to look for, but it would have been much better to have our longs off, since we were staying above the channel the whole time. And the only short that worked out was the last trade of the day. So we do want to be careful looking for directionality, because if the retracement into the channel is a little bit deep, it could trigger an entry, and you can simply just turn your longs off on, your shorts off on screen. Okay, this is a one tick chart type, so it is our smaller chart type, and you'll see that it has many more lines because obviously it's going to be looking for a lot more entries. And this is set up with a slower targeter, so I've got this at 50-50, so that means in this entire move up, it would be looking for longs, but we do have it with a max of 5 entries per move. So that means that in this scenario there was actually all long, but it already found 5 moves to look for. So if we had that increased to 12, it could have gotten several more entries in this move, and because it hit that 5 limit, that was it. On this short side push, just the one entry it found. Long side push, it was able to find a couple, and I've got a very close trail on this, so let's have a look at that. Okay, because this is a smaller chart type, I do have my trail on, and when it triggers 3 ticks, so it gets to +3 in profit, then I want to move my stop back 6 ticks, so that means that I have a -3 tick stop at that point. So when we get into a situation where there's a couple of moves, it will take a smaller stop because it has the trail on. In this case, it was able to put up about 35 ticks by the end of the day, and there is quite a few moves that were only +1, -1 kind of thing. So if you like more of a scalp setup, this is a good setup for you. If you like to have fewer trades per day, then you may want to trade with that larger chart type. Okay, just wanted to cover one more day on our 2-tick chart type. So in this scenario, it did find a couple of longs and was able to hit those, but then it maxed out. So it couldn't find any more trades, even though there was excellent opportunity later in this move in order to look for some more of that push to the long side. Then it found one more up at this kind of overstretched area, and in this scenario, if we had counter trends on, there would be a lot of nice counter trend moves. And then of course, once you get into the center channel, you do want to be careful because there could be a bounce at that point. And then later on in the day, it was able to capture some decent moves. This is pretty close to lunchtime, and you can see things definitely tightened up after our big push to the long side. Then we did come down, and this is our reversal band. So that actually triggered upside divergence, and that means that this move alone is 100 ticks. And we can see once they got back to the center channel, there were sellers waiting there, which we typically expect to have happen. And then it was able to catch a few more moves, caught a stop initially, and then 3 winners, and maxed out, I think, around 70 ticks. So that would have been a very good day, almost hit that daily max of 80 ticks that I've got in there. So a day like that, it wasn't just one strong trend to the upside or one strong trend to the downside. Price really did uh, try both of our reversal bands, big stretches away from the center channel, and then move dynamically back to it. So good movement on that day, and certainly uh, one of the bigger days that we had this past week. And finally, just want to go over what this past week's crude oil inventory report looked like and why it's important to leave your setup in your strategy to not be taking any trades at that point. So prior to the report, from the time that it turned on until the report, there was no trades identified. This would have been a nice push to the upside, and there would have been some opportunities long, but it's looking for the first cross after it starts on the day for the timed begin. So that was already in that upside push, and so nothing was taken. We got into crude, and this means that basically all of these candles, this is our large chart, all of these candles printed within 1 minute, and so would have definitely head faked you a whole bunch of times in here. Looks like we had about 4 or 5 candles max on the follow through, and then a lot of these had no follow through. So that is certainly what can happen. You might see just 2 great trades for crude oil inventory day, and then in other scenarios you might see a bunch of chop like what we're seeing here. So it was able to get through the day and put up a couple of nice winners, and then that was about it. I think this day got chopped flat, got some pretty good follow through, definitely hit target, just couldn't fill on it, so it would have been up net 3 trades at that point, but couldn't get a fill. Took a smaller stop on that based on our exit, our target or exit, and then we just got chopped for the remainder. So a couple of ticks up, and then that was it on the day. So definitely a good day not to be greedy. It was able to put up net 2 winners, and then that was pretty much it on the day. All right, I think that's it for the parameters. So if you have any questions, please let me know, and if you have any settings that you need clarification on, do the same. All right, thanks everybody.